everybody, welcome to Living Traditions Homestead. My name is Sarah. On our homestead, it is so important for us to grow and raise as much of our own food as possible. This spring we planted a big spring garden full of lots of things like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, turnip, beets, lots of other things, and we've already been harvesting a bunch of it. We have harvested about 30 heads of cauliflower. Today we're going to be pickling some of the cauliflower with a recipe that we absolutely love here at our house. It's called spicy pickled cauliflower. We've already eaten a bunch of the cauliflower fresh. I also blanched and froze some of the cauliflower. So today we're excited to move on to pickling. This recipe will allow us to process the pickled cauliflower in a water bath canner so that we can store it throughout the year on my canning shelf and we can enjoy it for 1 to 2 years if it makes it that long, which I know it won't. However, this recipe doesn't have to be canned. Right before we would put it in the canner, you can actually stop, let it cool off, and put it in the refrigerator and keep it like that for a couple of months. It will be great. So don't let this intimidate you if you're not comfortable canning. However, if you're interested in starting to learn how to can, I have a whole playlist series to teach you how to can, both water bath canning and pressure canning. Today I pulled out 2 bags of the heads of our homegrown cauliflower to start pickling. I'm only going to be pickling 6 quarts of the cauliflower, so I probably won't need all of this, but I want to make sure that I pack them full. The quality of this cauliflower is amazing. We didn't have any bug bites or anything, and we didn't use any pesticides at all. We actually used what's called floating row covers, which is basically just fabric that is laid over kind of in a hoop down the entire row. We did that for several types of our vegetables to prevent the cabbage moths from laying their eggs on all of our vegetables, and so their worms would eat them all up. So we didn't have any of that problem. And the end result was amazing. We've never had as good of a harvest as we have this year. And I want to show you what beautiful heads of cauliflower these are, even after being in the refrigerator for almost 2 weeks. You know, when you get cauliflower at the grocery store, sometimes it can look a little bit questionable, but these cauliflower heads are gorgeous. Just look at how gorgeous these are. You know, I haven't even washed these or anything. I just put these in bags. There's a little dirt on there, I guess. Put these in bags, double bag them, and put them right into the refrigerator. Before we get going, I will wash them, just rinse them real quick, and then we'll start chopping them up. But these just look fantastic. Good heavens, there are 4 heads in here. They look amazing. So like I said, we're going to just rinse these off, and then I'm going to start chopping these into small pieces. We're going to be packing these into the jars raw, so we want kind of smaller pieces so we can fit as much of the cauliflower in there as possible. So I'm going to get started with that. But before we start chopping, we actually need to get our brine going. The brine is going to be put into our jars hot, so we need to get that process started before we start chopping our veggies. Our brine is going to be apple cider vinegar, water, and salt. So we're going to start by putting in 8 cups of vinegar. Generally a pickling solution is 50% vinegar and 50% water. So our total amount of liquid will be 16 cups. That seems like a lot, but I'd rather have too much and use it for other things or have it in the refrigerator until I need it than not enough right at the end when I need to start processing. So 8 cups of apple cider vinegar, and then we'll put in 8 cups of water. We have really good well water, so I'm not afraid to use it straight from the sink. But if you don't have very good water, then I suggest you use filtered water. Now we need to add 1 cup of salt. The recipe that I use says to use sea salt. I'm actually going to be using pink Himalayan salt. We order a lot of things in bulk on the homestead. I can get them at a really good price, and we do so many things from scratch, homemade, that is important for me to have the supplies that I need on hand. We order most of our bulk products from a company called Azure Standard. And I really love it. You order once a month and then they deliver to a location in your community where everybody gets together, picks up their order, helps, you know, unload the truck and stuff. And I'll make sure to put a link to that, to Azure Standard, in the description below. If you're interested in that, you can take a look. But I order all of my salt, most of my spices and herbs that I can't grow myself. Bulk beans, chickpeas, rice, those kinds of things. We really love it. So we're gonna put this on the stove and mix it up, turn on the heat so that it boils and dissolves all of that salt. Now I'm bringing over the sanitized jars already because we're going to put some ingredients in each jar before we start filling it with the cauliflower. This is a really simple recipe. I know you all can do it, and it doesn't require lots of expensive, weird ingredients. In each one of these jars, we're going to put a half a teaspoon of black peppercorns and mustard seed. Now the black peppercorns I buy in bulk, and I just ordered also the yellow mustard seed in bulk. I like to prepare ahead of time for the season, like the canning season that we're going to be entering into, to make sure that I'm not in a bind when I need the ingredients. Things are so much more expensive at the grocery store than you can just buy in bulk, and a lot of times I can get a year or more supply in just one ordering. Each jar will also get its own clove of garlic. Now I'm going to be using this really fancy gizmo that takes the paper off of a clove of garlic. It's so easy. See? While I can put these in just whole like that, I prefer to smash them a little bit so that the flavor of the garlic goes out into the jar easier. Doesn't have to be much. Okay, now we're ready to get chopping. So I'm going to be cutting these heads of cauliflower into small pieces, but not super tiny pieces, and start filling the jar. And then I'm also going to be alternating slices of jalapeno peppers inside there, so it's kind of different layers. I plan to use 1 full jalapeno pepper per jar. Now you don't have to use jalapenos, you can use something hotter, you can use something more mild, you can use more peppers, less peppers, it's up to you. But that's what we enjoy. So I'm just going to start filling them up as I chop them. So we're all set to can. But before we do that, I want to share with you my very favorite canning book. I get a lot of questions about what I recommend for canning, and I recommend this book. It is the Ball Complete Book of Home Preserving. It has 400 recipes. It has great instructions, and I absolutely love it. If you want to take a look at this, we'll have this in our Amazon store. Now, the recipe that I'm doing today is not in here, but this is a huge resource. I love it to death. You can see all my bookmarks on there. Anyway, so check this out. Okay, we're all set to start canning. All 6 of the jars have been completely filled with all of our spices and our jalapenos and the cauliflower. In the pot here, we have the water, vinegar, salt solution, the brine. I brought it up to a boil. It's still very, very hot, and that's what we're going to use to fill these jars. So I'm just going to use my canning funnel, put that on top, and I'm going to ladle in the brine. We're going to be filling the jars up to a half inch from the top. Now there are faster ways to fill these. You could use a measuring cup. I'm just using my ladle today. When you think it's at the right height, then you need to poke around inside there to work out any air bubbles that are down inside there. Then measure with your measuring tool to make sure that the brine is a half inch from the top. And it looks like I need to add a little bit more. Now this measuring tool is something that you can actually find just like in the canning section of Walmart. It is labeled, every one of these little stairs is labeled at a 1/4 inch. And that's how you figure out how much space is left in your canning jar. And that every recipe that will, it will change how much space you need to leave up at the top. A lot of times it's a 1/4 inch, a half inch, or even an inch. So you can find these in Walmart. After you have these to the appropriate fill line, make sure that you wipe the top of your rim with a damp cloth to get any debris off of that, and then you'll put on one of these canning lids. Now, things have changed recently about the requirements for these canning lids. The instructions now say to just wash these with soap and water and let them dry, that you don't need to sanitize them anymore or put them on hot or in boiling water. You can just set them on top and put on your canning ring. From there, we're ready to put this in our hot canning water. We're going to put this in the hot canning water and leave it there, and every time we fill one, we'll put one in the canning water. At the end, we need to make sure that we have at least 1 to 2 inches of water above the canning jars in order for the canning process to work effectively. And we'll just continue the same process until all of the jars are filled and in the canning pot. Now, like I said, if you are not comfortable with the canning process yet, after you have this filled with the hot brine, you can let these come back to room temperature and then just put them in the refrigerator. You'll want to wait for probably 3 weeks to eat them so that all of the flavors kind of blend together. After you can these, you'll also want to wait a while for the same reason. They'll be safe to eat, they just won't be as tasty. Here's the last one. We're gonna put that in there. turn on the heat on high, and we're gonna cover it. So I've turned the heat back on to high, and I'm waiting for the water to come back up to a boil. Once it's boiling, I'll set my timer, and I will be processing these for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, I will turn off the heat and remove the lid and let it sit here for 5 more minutes before I take it out of the water and put it on the counter. Now I want to talk with you a little bit about altitude. Altitude can affect the amount of time that you need to process your canning, whether you're water bath canning or pressure canning. We are above 1,000 feet above sea level. We're in the 1,000 to 3,000 range here, which means I have added an extra 5 minutes to my processing time. So make sure to figure out what your altitude is and check in a book or online if your processing time will be affected. A lot of canners will use a rack on the bottom of their canning pot or a towel to keep the jars from kind of bouncing up and down on the bottom of the canning pot. The fear is that they'll kind of clank together and maybe break the jars. I do recommend that if that is what you're most comfortable with. I've actually never used either of those methods because I actually didn't know about them until maybe a year ago. I've never had any problems. I've never had any jars break, but play it safe if you're worried about that and either use a rack or a towel on the bottom of your canning pot. While these are processing, let's run out to the baby pigs and give them all the extra pieces that we didn't use. They haven't had that before. Let's see what they do. Got a few things. Hey pigs! Hey piggies! I got treats for you. I have treats for you. You like cauliflower or you don't know yet? I think you'll like it. Whoops, sorry. Oh, there's some turnip in there too. I think they're gonna like it. This is just the beginning of special treats for the pigs. We have so much more coming for them. Okay, they're all finished. Let's take them out and see how beautiful they look. Well, there you go, guys. Spicy pickled cauliflower, one of our family's favorites. They're gonna be fantastic. I'll let them sit on the shelf for a couple of weeks before we try them. Now keep in mind, you shouldn't touch these or move them or anything for at least 12 hours. 24 hours is best. Check the seals and make sure that they popped in and that everything is fine. Let me share a secret with you. Another one of our family favorites happens after all the cauliflower is gone. When it's empty and all the cauliflower is out, put in some hard-boiled eggs and put them in the refrigerator. Let them sit there for about 5 days or so. They make the best pickled eggs. I promise you'll love them, so give that a try too. You guys, I hope you enjoyed learning how to can some pickled cauliflower. I hope you give it a try. I know you'll love it. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe if you haven't. Share it with your friends. Make sure to check out the playlist that I have on canning all other kinds of food and to teach you how to can. Until next time, you guys, thank you so much for stopping by the homestead. Take care and God bless.